In the blistering heat of summer 1941, the Soviet Union was reeling under the weight of Operation Barbarossa, Nazi Germany's blitzkrieg invasion. The vast steppes and forests of the Eastern Front had become a brutal theatre of war as Hitler's armies surged forward, intent on crushing the Soviet defences and securing a victory in the East. Amid this maelstrom of blood and iron, stories of extraordinary heroism emerged, none more surprising or unlikely than that of Ivan Pavlovich Sereda, a humble Soviet army cook who captured a German tank with nothing more than an axe. At the time, Sereda was a cook stationed in the 91st Tank Regiment, far from the glamour of the front lines. His role was vital, though not the traditional sense of combat. He prepped meals for his weary soldiers and nourishing them between brutal battles and kept the camp running smoothly. While his comrades fought on the front lines, Sereda worked behind the scenes, chopping vegetables, tending fire, and rationing the scant supplies. But in war, no one's position is ever truly safe. As fate would have it, Ivan Sereda was about to be thrust into the heart of the fight. It was late at night, and the soldiers Sereda was with were out on patrol. Meanwhile, he was busy at the field kitchen focusing on preparing dinner for the men. As he worked, he noticed a tank rumbling into view. At first, Sereda didn't think much of it, assuming it was one of their own, and he found himself wondering how many men he'd need to feed that night. Lost in thought, it suddenly hit him. The tanks weren't Soviet, but German. The Soviet defense lines had been breached, and 3 German tanks had found their way to the camp. 2 of the tanks veered away from the camp, but one came straight in. It was a Panzerkampfwagen 38T. Not the most formidable of machines compared to some of Germany's other World War II tanks, but when there's one man with no anti-tank weapons, it is still an impenetrable fortress. His heart raced as he quickly ducked behind a kitchen tent. The tank rolled to a stop in the clearing and 4 crew members stepped out. Sereda's rifle was out of reach, so he grabbed the only weapon he could get his hands on, an axe used to chop wood. What exactly went through Sereda's mind at that moment is anyone's guess. Perhaps it was desperation, or perhaps it was the iron will of a man who refused to back down no matter the odds. Whatever his motivation, he took action. With a wild yell, he charged straight at them, swinging his axe, shouting at the top of his lungs as though he had gone completely mad. The startled Germans, convinced they were under attack by a large force, scrambled back into the tank and sealed the hatch. They immediately opened fire with the machine gun, but Sereda was already on top of the tank. With all his strength, he began smashing the gun barrel with his axe, bending it out of shape and rendering it useless. Inside the tank, panic set in. Desperate to escape, the crew tried to get the engine running to make a quick getaway, but Sereda, thinking fast, grabbed a tarp and threw it over the tank's periscope, blocking their view. Sereda began to shout to non-existent comrades to bring him explosives. If they had been able to see what was happening outside, the Germans would have realized it was just one man, a lone cook, hammering away at the tank with an axe. The truth was, there was no comrades coming, and Sereda didn't have any explosive to disable or destroy the tank. But the Germans, completely unaware of the reality, believing they were surrounded by Soviet troops, fearing they were hopelessly outnumbered, surrendered to Sereda. When the patrolling soldiers returned, not only did they find a hot meal, but a full working German tank and 4 prisoners of war. For his extraordinary bravery and quick thinking, Ivan Pavlovich Sereda was awarded the Order of the Red Banner, one of the Soviet Union's highest military honors, and his feat became the stuff of legend.